A very good morning, students. Welcome back to online classes on Java programming course. In our previous session, we discussed about constructors. We have seen how a constructor is different from a method and how we can use these constructors inside a class to initiate the objects. We have also seen how we can execute a Java program using any IDE, like I used Edit Plus in order to execute my Java programs. In today's session, we will be discussing about overloading concepts, both method overloading as well as constructor overloading, that we will discuss in today's session. And also we will see how we can use the different concepts associated with methods like recursion, parameter passing, and also the returning of object. One of the important concept in methods, that is how we can return an object using the return keyword from a method. So all these things in today's session I will try to wind up. So quickly get into the concepts. The first concept, that is overloading methods. So this overloading methods concept, it is similar to your function overloading in C++. So it is a way to achieve polymorphism. So in order to support polymorphism, Java uses this overloading concepts. So here you can see that one, Java supports polymorphism with the help of this overloading. So what exactly the term overloading means? So whenever we are using a method in our class, we are giving a name to it, isn't it? We are giving a name, an identifier to the method. So it is not possible to have same methods with different methods with same names. So you can achieve this, having same method name. You can achieve this just by having different parameters into it. So definitely whenever we are using a method definition inside a class, we are specifying the return type of that method, we are specifying the name of that method, and we are also specifying the parameter list. I mean, what input parameters the method is going to take when it is invoked. So just by changing the parameter types, or just by changing the parameter number, we can have, there is a flexibility that we can have same method name to different methods. Okay, we can have the same identifier to different methods. So that concept we call it as the method overloading, or overloading of methods. So yes, if two or more methods within the same class share the same name with different parameters, the methods are said to be overloaded. It is very simple concept. We are going to have more number of methods within a single class with same name but with different parameters. So this is the concept of method overloading, and we call such a method as an overloaded method. Okay, the concept is method overloading, and we call such methods as overloaded methods. So using method overloading, Java supports polymorphism, or we can say, in order to exhibit the polymorphism concept, Java uses method overloading. Okay, so whenever the compiler, or whenever the interpreter of Java sees a call to the method, okay, a call to an overloaded method, it immediately checks for the parameters. Okay, it checks the parameter type and as well as the number of parameters. Parameters are nothing but your arguments. It will checks for the parameters, or it will checks for the type and number of the arguments, and it exactly invokes the suitable methods with the exact number of parameters and exact number of exact type of parameters. Here both the things are important, type as well as the number of arguments. Okay, how many number, I mean 2, 3, how many number you have parameters and what are their types. So whatever overloaded method definition satisfies the function, I mean method call, it invokes the suitable one. Okay, hopefully you understood this phenomenon. And to give more clarity, we will discuss one simple example on this method overloading in Java. So quickly go to your Edit Plus, and here we'll start writing our code. So definitely, as it is a Java program, we need to have what we call the class for this program. So I will start writing the program code. Here I'm taking the class name as overload demo. My class name is overload demo. Okay, and inside it, or overload, you take the class name as overload demo, and here you put one method with name test, and this test I'm giving without any parameters. You have to observe that when I'm not passing any parameters to this test method over here. It is having the return type as void, but it is not having any parameters. So inside it, what I'm doing, I'm simply keeping one uh, statement, system.out.println, that is no parameters. So this is my first method. Okay, and I'm writing another method with same name test. So this is method overloading now. So over here, this test is not having any parameters, and this test I'm passing one integer type of parameter. So this is my second definition for the same method, test method. One without any parameters and one with only one parameter. Okay, here what I'm doing, I'm simply printing that a value, system dot out dot println of that out sorry, what is that, integer a value I'm printing. So a colon plus a, like this I'm printing. So next I'm writing a third definition for my test method, so with two parameters. So here let us take two double ones, double d1 comma double d2. Like this I'm taking the third definition for the same method. Here you can see the method name I'm taking same, test test test, only I'm changing the parameters here. So same method name with different parameters, it is nothing but method overloading. Same method name with different arguments, it is nothing but method overloading. Here no arguments, no parameters, here one parameter of type integer, and here two parameters of type double, or we can take the mixed types as well. Okay, one is double and other one is like, let us say, float. I'm taking float, I'm taking float f, double d and float f. So like this. Okay, so now what I have to do, here I'm inside this method definition, method body, I'm printing those two parameters, that is simply print a and b values, or d and f values here. Okay, d and f values are, okay, how we can print, just attach them using the concatenation. Okay, d value plus, give some space in between, then attach f value. So like this you can print the values, d value and f value. Okay, this is something uh, the class definition. So now we have to write our main class, and our main class name should be same like our Java program name. Okay, test demo. Okay, my main class name or my public class name I'm giving like test demo. Over there I'm going to keep my main method. Okay, so you need to understand this one, class test demo. So here what I have to do, I have to create the object for my overload demo, I mean my above class, this class object I have to create, overload demo. So I'm doing that one, and inside, I mean using that object I can call any of these methods. I mean that I will show you how we can call the different scopes of those methods. Okay, so first of all, overload demo Okay, OD equals to new overload, because the class name is overload demo. Okay, this is the constructor call. Okay, now what I have to do, so simply in order to call the first method, that is a method without any parameters, how I can call? So simply to call that method, use the object name od.test. That's it. Like this you can call. So now save this program with the same, this test demo. Okay, the program name we have to give like test demo.java. Save. Already it is given, so it will be saved. Now it got saved. So how we can do the compilation? Already I have done the settings for compiling this program using edit plus editor. Okay, for compilation as well as for execution I have done the settings. So directly I'm using those shortcuts to compile and execute my Java program. So directly go to tools and click on Java compiler. Yes, here it is giving one issue, that expected identifier. Test of, maybe there is some issue in this one. Overload demo. Yes, here I believe some mistake I have done in giving the class name or something. See, the big mistake over here is we have not kept the PSVM, that is public static void main, into this one. So that we have to put public static void main of string arguments. Okay, string args, like this. So over here now, yeah, without any issues you will get the output now. Okay, save this. Now go for compilation, compiler. Okay, no issues hopefully. Yes, now how we can execute, go to tools and Java run. See, we got because we have invoked the method without any parameters, that is test method without any parameters. So inside the test method body we kept a message like no parameters, so that is the reason we got this message no parameters. So we are invoking test method without any parameters, so we got that one. So how we can invoke the second method, that is with integer parameter? Simply put integer value over here, 24. That's it. Now what it will do, it will print this 24 on the output screen. Just go compile. We are invoking the second type, a method with one parameter, test method with one parameter we are invoking now. So this is compilation. Now we are executing. You can see that a equals to 24 we got. Okay, so the next thing we have a method with two parameters, that is one is of double type and the other one is of float type. So both double and float, they are precision based values. So you can give like 1.324 for double and some 1 point, sorry, 3.14 for float. So like this you can pass any two values, okay, for double and float. Now save this one, go to tools, compile. We are calling the third type of method definition, double or float. Okay, possibly lossy conversion from double to float. Yes, here this will be considered like a double value only. Because of that reason we are getting issue over here. So how we can make this value as a float value? By doing some type conversion here, explicit type conversion, we can convert this double value to float value. Okay, but I don't want to do that. So instead, directly go here and change the type to double only. Okay, I was expecting this error. Okay, because all the precision values by default they will be considered like double only. Because of that reason, we are getting that error. There is a there is no possible conversion from double to float. Okay, you have to make it as explicit. Okay, so over here this you make it as d1 and this you make it as d2. So now save it, come down, and hopefully you will get the output. Now the third type of method call, that is so actually d1 I have taken here. You need to put d2, this one. Okay, now you save it, compile. Okay, it is successful. Now you go execute, run. You can see the difference now. D and F values here, D1 and D2 values I need to put, that is 1.324 and 3.14. So in this way we can invoke different method bodies based on their what we call the parameter type and parameter number. Okay, so this is the concept of method overloading. Simply we have taken a method inside a class with overload demo name. Okay, we have taken a method test, overloaded method. We have to call it as an overloaded method because we have taken three different bodies for the same method, and how the compiler is differentiating between these three bodies in the sense based on the number of parameters and based on the type of parameters. So over here when we are saying, when we are invoking the test method without any parameters, we are this body is invoking. Okay, the first body is invoking and you are getting this message, no parameters. And when you are invoking the same method with integer parameter, it is invoking this body and it is printing a value. And when you are invoking the test method with two parameters, it is invoking this body and it is printing two double values. Okay, so likewise, the concept of method overloading can be explained. It is an important concept for your external exam. You have to remember this one. So our next concept, if you see, after method overloading, we have the constructor overloading. So as we discussed about constructors are similar to your methods. Okay, they behave same like, they behave many of the properties similar to your similar to your method. So as methods they can be overloaded, your constructors they can also be overloaded. Like methods, the constructors can also be overloaded with different types and number of arguments. So here also, in order to overload your methods, what you have to do, simply change the type of parameters or change the number of parameters. Okay, these are the two ways in which you can overload the constructor. Overloading is nothing but giving multiple bodies, more than one bodies for the constructor, and how the compiler is going to differentiate between those bodies in the sense based on the number of parameters or based on the type of parameters that you are going to pass to the constructors or to the methods. The process of doing so is called constructor overloading. So here again, once again, we need to demonstrate this the constructor overloading concept in Java. So for that, again, I have to go for edit plus. So quickly, so here also yes, the same method overloading program I will open. Over here what I will do, instead of taking, okay, overload demo, no issues, I will put the same thing. Overload demo is my class name, and now we are dealing with constructors, isn't it? So instead of taking the method name, what we have to do, we have to take the constructor over here. Okay, overload demo, the constructor here without any parameters, and here with one parameter, overload demo, and here with two parameters, because the constructor is not going to have any return type, isn't it? You have to remember this one. The constructor will not have any return type. So now the concept is same. No need to call the method. I mean, no need to call the constructor explicitly, and it will be invoked at the time of creation of the object. Okay, when you are creating the object, at that time itself the constructor will be invoked. Over here, what will happen? Overload demo od is equals to new overload demo. When you have written this one, indirectly you are calling the default constructor. That is default constructor in the sense constructor without any parameters. So what will happen? When you put this statement inside your class, what will happen? When you create the object of your overload demo, it will invoke the default constructor, that is a constructor without any parameters. So this message you will get on the output screen, no parameters. So quickly we go and we see whether it will give the same output or it will give any issues. So compile. Yeah, no errors. So I hope it will give the output. Run the program. As you can see, no parameters. So it is executing the first body. Okay, it is executing the first body, so it is giving this message, no parameters. And how the compiler is differentiating between these multiple bodies of the constructor in the sense, simply by checking the parameters. So here, when we are invoking the when we are creating the object, we are not passing any parameters. As you can see here, we are not passing any parameters, so it is invoking the first body of the constructor and you are getting this message. So if you pass an integer parameter over there, it will execute the second body, it will consider the second body. So here also same thing, put 24, it is an integer value. So now what will happen? You will get the second uh, uh, um, definition. You will get the second definition executed. So you will get a value as 24 on the output screen. Quickly compile it. So now execute it. As you can see, a value 24 you got. So that means it is executing the second body of the second definition of the constructor. So how we can execute the third definition? So in order to execute the third definition, you need to pass two parameters of double type. So simply pass, when you are creating the object, simply pass two parameters now, that is 1.24, okay, 21.4, and put another double value, that is 26 point something 9. Okay, save this. Program got saved. Now once again you go compile. Compilation successful. Execute. As you can see, you are getting d1 and d2 values as 21.4 and 26.9. In this way you can execute your constructor overloading concept. Okay, very simple concepts: method overloading, constructor overloading, and these two concepts are an important concepts for your external exams. There is one more concepts along with overloading. They will also ask about overriding, that we will see in inheritance concept. Okay, maybe in our upcoming class we will discuss about inheritance. Over there we will see how we can override the methods. Okay, so it is also a very simple concept. Quickly go to our next concept, that is argument passing. Argument passing or parameter passing. Okay, or we can also call it as the communication between methods. So interfunction communication we have seen in your first sem in your C programming. Okay, this argument passing mechanism or parameter passing mechanism are also communication between the methods. This is the same concept what we have studied over there. So basically, there are two ways in which we can pass the arguments to methods. So the first way is call by value, and the second approach is call by reference. Okay, there are two ways in which we can pass the arguments to methods. Arguments are nothing but the parameters, are nothing but the input to the methods. In how many ways we can give input to the methods? In the sense, one, by passing the direct values we can give, or the second approach is by passing the references also we can give. these two approaches, they are very important in any programming language. Okay, the call by value and the call by reference. So the first way, the call by value mechanism, what it will do, it will copy the arguments from formal parameters, from actual parameters to the formal parameters. So in the process of call by value, what will happen, the actual parameters gets copied into formal parameters, and if you do any changes to those formal parameters, those changes will not affect, they will not have any kind of effect on the actual parameters, isn't it? The approach is already familiar to you because many times we discussed this approach. In your C we discussed, in your C++ also we discussed. So the second approach is the call by reference mechanism. In this, what we do, generally we will not pass the direct data, or we will not pass the actual parameters. Rather, what we do, we pass the references, isn't it? References are nothing but the addresses. So over here in Java, there is no pointers concept. Already we discussed this thing. Java does not support pointers. So how we are going to achieve the concept of reference in the sense with the help of objects. So here an object is nothing but it is a kind of reference only. It is a kind of instance only. Okay. So inside the methods, so whenever we are dealing with call by reference mechanism, inside a method, how we are accessing the values in the sense with the help of objects, rather than passing the actual data value or actual data variables, what we will do, we will pass the references. Okay, so when you pass the references, you are passing the complete memory location, isn't it? You are passing the complete memory location as an argument to the method. So now when you pass the complete memory location, what will happen? The values will not get copied from actual parameters to the formal parameters. Instead, what will happen? The formal parameters itself becomes the memory location. Okay, the formal parameter itself takes the memory location of actual parameters. So over here, what will happen? So when you are passing the entire memory location as an argument to the method, so indirectly it is taking the reference of actual argument, actual parameters. So when you are passing the reference of actual argument, actual parameter, if you do any changes to the formal parameter, what will happen? Those changes will also affect the actual argument. So here two approaches, the call by value approach and call by reference approach. Call by value approach and call by reference approach. Okay, here what we will do, from actual to formal, here whatever actual parameters we are going to have, will copy them. Okay, will copy them into formal parameters. From here to here we will copy. But in case of call by reference, whatever actual parameters you have, what we do inside formal parameters, will pass those memory locations as it is. Just by taking the help of objects, will pass those memory locations as it is. So if you do any changes to the formal parameters, any changes here you are doing, those changes indirectly affect the actual parameters also. Here, any changes you do to the formal parameters, they will not affect the actual parameters. Actual parameters will remain intact, but formal parameters will affect the changes, get affect the changes. Over here in call by reference, if you do to the change, if you do the changes to the formal parameters, those changes will also affect the actual parameters. So the concept is same from your C and C++, but here as there are no pointers in Java, instead of dealing with addresses, we are dealing with objects over here. So instead of passing the addresses from actual parameters to the formal parameters, what we are doing over here, we are passing the references, object references, and we are doing the changes to those object references, and those changes are affecting the actual parameters. So in this way we are achieving the call by reference mechanism. Okay, call by value mechanism, when you pass a primitive type to a method, it is passed by value only. So whatever primitive types we have, like integer, float, double, byte, short, all those things, whatever primitive types you have, if you pass those primitive types, they will be passed using pass by value mechanism or call by value mechanism. We can also call them as pass by value mechanism. Changes made to the formal parameters does not affect the actual ones. Changes made to the formal ones does not affect the actual ones. Remember this one. This is the call by value mechanism. So we need to demonstrate this call by value mechanism now. It is very simple to understand. So just by taking a simple program, I will try to explain this one. So delete this entire thing. Now start writing the program. So first one, take the class name as uh, call by value, because we are doing here everything using call by value. This is my class name, and inside this class what I am doing, void, I am taking a method with name method only, method. Okay, and I am supplying two arguments to this I and j. So inside this method I am doing some changes to the formal parameter. These are my formal parameters. I and j are my formal parameters, and I'm doing some changes to that one. So simply I equals to I multiplied equals to, or I can write I equals to I multiplied 2, or shortcut how I can write, I can remove these two and I can put over here equals to. So this means this is same like I equals to I multiplied with 2, isn't it? I equals to I multiplied with 2. Next thing, j divide equals to 2. So like this I am doing. So what does it mean? J equals to j divided by 2, like this, isn't it? So now what I have to do, this is my call by value method. So now I have to call that method class, give the class name as test demo only, because my program name is test demo. Give the class name as test demo, and under it you try to put that your public method, that is public static void main of string arguments. Okay, so like this you put, and here you create the object for your call by value class, call by value. Okay, then give object name ob equals to new, uh, call the default constructor call by value of. So this will create the object. Now what I have to do, after creating the object, take any two variables like integer of a comma, uh, initialize them here itself, a value as 10 and b value as 20. Okay, now okay, before the call we need to print a and b values. So that is system dot out dot println of, okay, a and b values before call. Before call, call means method call. Okay, call means method call only. So here you put a value and b value. A value I'm printing, okay, giving some space in between, and then printing b value. So like this. So now call the method. So how we can call object dot test, isn't it? Test only, right? The method name is test only. No, method name is method. So here you remove this one. Method name is method of pass a comma b values. So these are my actual parameters. A and b are my actual parameters, and they will get copied into I and j. A value gets copied into I and b value gets copied into j. As you can see here, I am passing two parameters, and here are my formal parameters. So a value gets copied into I and b value gets copied into j, and this will be these manipulations will be done to I and j value. So here indirectly what I am doing, I am changing the formal parameters. So according to our discussion, these changes should not affect my actual parameters a and b. So when I print after the call, when I print a and b values, so that is system dot out dot print ln of, so if I print a and b values, a and b values after call, so what should happen? It should not affect my a and b values. So I should get the same a and b values. Okay. So here b value I am printing. So that's it. Close it, save it. Okay. Now what we have to do? Compile this program. Java compiler. No issues, I hopefully. Yes. Next is run the program. Java run. As you can see, we both, even before the method call and after the method call, we are getting the same values for a and b, that is 1020 1020. So that means whatever changes we have done inside the method body, those changes we are not seeing on the actual parameters. So changes made to the formal parameters, they are not affecting the actual parameters in call by value mechanism. So in this way you can explain the call by value mechanism. So then we have the call by reference mechanism. Go to our PPT. So the next thing is call by reference mechanism. So as we said, Java does not support pointers. So in order to achieve the call by reference mechanism, we are going for objects. So instead of passing the actual parameters like normal primitive types, what we are doing, we are passing the objects. We are not passing the primitive types, rather we are passing the objects. So inside those objects, we are going to have the data members, and whatever changes we made to those data members, indirectly they will affect the actual data members as well. Okay, so when an object is passed, the reference of a class is passed. So indirectly what is happening, whenever we are passing an object, we are passing the reference to the class. So creating a variable of class type only creates a reference to an object. Passing this reference to a method, the parameter that receives it will refer to the same object as the referred argument. So indirectly it is something like passing the address only. Passing the reference means passing the address only. But as Java does not support the concept of pointers, we are achieving this with the help of objects. So what we do, we create an object for a class and we pass that object as an argument to the method. So the method which receives this object reference acts like a what we call a reference to the same memory location. Okay, acts like a reference to the same memory location. So when you do the changes to the formal parameters, because both formal and actual parameter, both formal object as well as the actual object going to point the same memory location. So if you do the changes using the formal object or if you do the changes using the actual object, the concept is same. The same memory location gets affected. Okay, the same memory location gets affected. So indirectly it means if you do the changes to the formal parameters, you receive the changes in actual parameters as well. Okay, so remember this phenomenon, remember this concept. So quickly, with the help of a demonstration, I will try to explain this concept. So we will take the same program. So over here, call by reference. Okay, now take the method. So inside this method, uh, yes, what we do is inside this method, instead of taking the uh, primitive types, we have to take, as I said, we have to take the object of what type? Object of class type. So here temp or TOBJ, temporary object. So now using the temporary object, what we will do, uh, inside this class, first you declare two variables, int a comma b. So now here you remove this. So what we have to do, TOBJ dot, yes, A equals to multiply equals to, same thing you do, multiply equals to 2. So this means, what does it mean? It means TOBJ dot A equals to TOBJ dot A multiplied with 2. Okay. So the next thing, TOBJ dot B, division equals to 2. So again, this means TOBJ dot B equals to TOBJ dot B divided by 2. So like this. That's it. Okay. So we are doing some changes to the formal parameter. So my formal parameter is TOBJ. So inside this TOBJ, what we are going to have? We are going to have two data members, A and B data members. So I'm changing the A data member value and I'm changing the B data member value. So this changes, it should affect my actual object as well. So here what I have to do, call by reference, create the actual object OBJ here. Okay. So now here reference ref capital R capital. Okay. So I kept inside A, I kept the value 10. Okay, in this way we can't do basically, because here also we are declaring and here also we are declaring. So this multi declaration is not possible. So what I have to do is, uh, yes, in this way I can do obj dot A equals to 10. Okay, obj dot B is equals to 20. So these are my actual parameters. Okay, so A and B values before call, before the method call. So over here obj dot A and obj dot B. Okay, so next thing, I'm passing the object over here, not the actual parameters, rather I'm passing the obj object. So after, yeah, here also obj dot method. Okay, I'm passing the object itself. Okay, so after passing the object, we will see, I think we need to initiate these A and B with the help of constructor, but we will do like this. If it gives the output, it's okay. If it is not giving the output, means we will modify. Okay, so always we have to try some new things, isn't it? So over here what I have done, I have created an object obj, and when you create this object obj, it is going to have two data members, A and B, and also it is going to have a method. Okay, so I'm initiating A value with 10 and I'm initiating B value with 20 inside the actual object obj. So and I'm passing that actual object obj to my method, and that obj will be received inside this temporary object TOBJ, and I'm trying to modify. Now this TOBJ and OBJ are going to point the same memory location. They're not the different things, they are the same things. Okay, they are going to point the same memory location. So if I do the changes using TOBJ.A, TOBJ.B, what will happen? These changes will also affect my actual parameters, that is obj.A, obj.B. So here when I am printing obj.A, obj.B, so you should see the changes over here. Okay, before the method call, A and B values you should receive 10 and 20, and after the method call, A and B values you should receive according to the changes what you have made over here. So A you are multiplying with 2, so you should receive 20, because A value 10 we are passing, and B you should receive 10, isn't it? Because we are dividing B value by 2. Actual B value is 20 and we are dividing with 2, so you receive 20 over there, 10 over there. So quickly go save it, compile it, Yes, compilation successful. So we see execution. See, before and after we are getting a value we passed as 10 and we modified this something like this. We multiplied a value with 2. So if you multiply 10 with 2 you will get 20, and b value we divided with 2, isn't it? B value we divided with 2. So 20 divided by 2 you received 10. So this is something call by reference mechanism, and changes you are making to the formal parameters they are affecting the actual parameters. Okay, hopefully you understood. And we said Java does not support pointers, so how we are achieving call by reference means by passing the objects. Okay, with the help of objects we are achieving the call by reference mechanism. Over here as you can see we are not passing any primitive types, because if you pass the primitive type it will become a call by value. Instead if you pass the objects it will become call by reference. Simply remember this thing. In Java, if you pass primitive types, it is call by value mechanism. If you pass the objects, it is call by reference mechanism. Simple and easy to understand. So call by reference is also over. So next thing we need to discuss how we can return the objects from methods. So that also we will see very quickly. So returning objects from methods. So objects are no different than your normal data. Okay, so objects can also be treated as regular data types only. Okay, because object is nothing but it is an element of class. It is an element of class type. So when it is having a data type and when it is having some reference, when it is having some memory associated with it, it can also be treated like a regular data type element. So um, like how your method is receiving objects, your method can also return the objects. Just now we have seen in call by reference mechanism we said that we can pass the object as an argument to the method. So when you are passing object as an argument to method, there is a scope, there is a flexibility that you can also return an object from a method. There is no difference in that. Okay, so a method can also return any type of data, including the class type of data that we create inside the Java program. So quickly I will demonstrate, because there is nothing to explain about it, only with the help of demonstration we can show it. So quickly delete this program and start writing the new program. So that is class, I'm taking the class name as return obj, return object. Okay, so inside this class what I am doing, I'm taking a variable. Okay, and I'm taking my method name. I'm taking my method name is method. Okay, method, and it is receiving, it is not receiving anything. Okay, it is not receiving anything, rather what it will return, it will return an object. So it will return an object of type return obj, same class. Okay, so now inside this what I am doing is uh, yes, whatever a variable we have, right? So this a variable we need to initiate, we need to initiate. So first let's just write the actual class, public class, then we will come over here and we will do the coding over here. So directly go to the public class. So here my public class I'm writing class name. We should give the class name like test demo only, because my uh, program name is test demo. So public static void main of string arguments. Okay, yes, within this what we have to do, uh, yeah, there is a lot of things. That is an object will be returned, that object we have to receive, and using that object we have to print the value. So first what I will do, I will create one simple object. Okay, so that class name return obj. I don't want to confuse you people, that's why I'm doing in this way. So what I'm doing, I'm creating an object of return obj class. So return obj, and I'm giving that object name as obj1 equals to new uh, return obj. So this object creation should initialize a value 10 to a. This object creation should initialize a value 10 to a. So how I can do that one? Yes, with the help of constructor. Here I should take return obj of, here you receive that temporary value, and whatever value you are receiving, initialize that to a, like this. Okay, hopefully you understood. So next thing, inside this method, what we have to do inside this method, yes, whatever object we have just now created, so whenever you are going to invoke this method, it should create another object, because that object only we are going to return. Okay, so it should create an object test tobj equals to new, not test here, method name, return obj equals to tobj new equals to new. Here we have to put uh, return obj of, okay, whatever a value we are having, that a value you just add some more value to it. So it will again invoke the same constructor, and it will reinstantiate or reinitialize or re assign the value of a to it. Okay, so a value will become whatever value we are going to pass over there. Here we have passed 10 only, right? So a value will become 20 now. So that 20 value we will return with the help of return keyword. Okay, return, instead of returning the normal data variable, we are returning object now, tobj, temporary object. So when the method is returning this tobj, when you call this method, it should be capable of receiving that tobj. So before making the call, here now I'm going to call that method. Okay, so definitely when it is receiving, we need another object over here. So return obj2. Okay, so now obj2 will receive that object returned by the method. Okay, obj2 equals to obj1 dot, call the method of, that's it. Okay, now, so whatever changes we made to that a, okay, whatever changes we made to that a, those changes we have to receive here using temporary object. So simply print that thing over here, system dot out dot println of yes, a value. Okay, a value by using tobj1 and a value by using tobj2, both the things we will see. A value obj1, okay, obj1, so that how we can print plus obj1 dot a. Okay, so the next thing, same a value, okay, yes, here using obj2, here also you make it as obj2. So from where we received this obj2, that matters over here, that you have to understand. From where we receive, from the method we receive, whatever method is returning, that object we are receiving inside obj2. And what method is returning? Method is returning after the modification. After modifying a value, whatever object it is creating, that object it is returning. So when you print a value using obj1, you should get 10, because you are passing 10 as an argument to this constructor. So this constructor will initialize this 10 to a. Okay, so obj1 dot a means it is 10. Now this obj2 we are receiving from the method. Inside the method is modifying a value to 20. So when you print obj2 dot a, you should receive 20 over here. Hopefully you understood. So quickly go and compile this program, check any issues. The spell mistake is there here. This is return obj, not retun. It should be return, where it is here, turn, return obj. Now once again you compile it, no issues. So quickly run it. So we should get 10 and 20. obj1 as 10, obj2 as 20. See here, obj1 as 10, obj2 as 20. So in this way we can even return objects from methods, not only the regular primitive data types, data elements, but also it is possible to return objects from methods. And a simple demonstration I have given over here how this can be achieved, how you can create objects and how you can return objects from methods. Okay, after this we have many concepts like recursion, then access control, and we also have nested and inner classes. Okay, and then we have some keywords like static, final, and the string class, exploration, and after that we will go with inheritance and packages. See, till your second mid exam, I mean first mid exams, whatever concepts we will cover, I will try to frame the question paper from all those concepts. Okay, I'm not going to give any question from the concepts which we have not covered. So you simply refer my videos, whatever concepts we discussed in my videos, I will frame my first mid question paper from those concepts only till your first mid exams. Still we don't know when they are, the timetable is not yet out. So when they prepare the timetable, we'll make the deadline and we'll go accordingly. So all these concepts whatever we discussed in today's class, these concepts are also important for your first mid exam. So you need to prepare these concepts as well. Okay, hopefully you understood. So try to go accordingly, try to do the preparation accordingly. Thank you very much, students.